Bienvenue, welcome once again to another property-based live stream. This one is called Ipsa Kind of Magic, and it stars Hamish McClay of Search Convey, and the special guest today is Jackie Dyson of the Yorkshire Search Agency Limited, who is a consultant to Ipsa, having been with Ipsa pretty much since its inception. Today's topic is really discussing and putting more of an emphasis than we normally do on what it takes to be Ipsa, what it takes to be an Ipsa member. And I'm going to start this off, as ever, with our head of Ipsa at the moment, Hamish McClay.
Right, so our association, IPSA, the Association of Independent Personal Search Agents, is rather what it says. It's an association, it's a group of us. And one of the great advantages we do have, we're actually independent. And as a consequence of our independence, it does give us the opportunity to share with our clients data from whichever source they choose. And there are a variety of sources, even for the personal searches that obviously we were set up to work with between ourselves. Now, there was a voluntary group initially, and they didn't. I don't know how long it was that Jackie can perhaps tell us that Jackie was working with other colleagues, totally on their own, without any association, effectively, in the terms of anything sort of official, because they had been working together as a group, independently, just sharing the fact that one would go to one council, one would go to the other, and it was very, very easy just to maintain. However, the association was formed, IPSA, Independent Personal Search Agents, to actually enable that whole group to work throughout the country. When I say throughout the country, it's the country as we know it's in England and Wales only, because we have a common methodology in terms of the way searches are to be delivered, which they're actually sort of set down. Now, we, as sort of individual members, join up, and we have some common elements that every single member of Ipsa will actually sort of have before they're eligible to join. So they have to go through a phase. First of all, it's registering with the Property Codes Compliance Board. So they have to register, and then, of course, the Property Codes Compliance Board, which is an independent check, they check out that all the boxes have been ticked, and therefore the searches are going to be supplied in a sort of common way. However, what does actually sort of happen is those particular people, if they could actually start it from scratch and just purely work on that particular sort of basis. However, what we do, if somebody wishes to become an Ipsa member, they have to have gone through that original registration with the Property Codes Compliance Board, followed by going through the portcullis of membership of Ipsa, which includes the presence of Jackie, and we'll speak about that on another occasion in the short term, because we'll get Heather along with us as well. We can actually sort of speak about the particular process it stands, but just to make some others know. So if you like, there is, I believe there might be some certificate, because it's actually sort of online. Anybody,
there is one, there should be one.
Anybody can check up Property Codes Compliance Board and find members, and any member of Ipsa will be actually on that. If they're not on that, they will not be a member of Ipsa. So the Property Codes Compliance Board, the PCCB, will list all members. So having attained that, as I said, we need to move through, and basically an interview will be carried out, and that's face-to-face by way of the internet. We can easily do it now. So Heather and Jackie will actually sort of form this particular part of that relationship. So, but what it does actually sort of mean, through that discussion, that people are able to sort of demonstrate, if you like, where they would get various parts of information from, and answer questions that would be contained in the form that is required for the Personal Search agent to complete a personal search to be completed, because it is actually almost a legal requirement now. And we have a methodology. There's an element of consistency in that, which is not found actually with the councils, because they can actually sort of vary. But so it's a pathway, if you like. And Ipsa has actually itself, and Jackie can explain a little bit about this, Jackie has actually created, along with sort of a couple of other members, putting the final thing together, a training so people can actually go through that. They don't have to go through that particular training, but the training is, if you like, an added bonus to anybody who becomes a member of Ipsa. You can actually go there, hone your sort of skills, looking at that particular detail. Many people, of course, if they're starting up a business of their own, they sometimes come from a search background, so they would have had some experience. But it's a good way of actually reminding them of how things come together.
Jackie, welcome to the show. What does it take to be an Ipsa member?
Well, as Hamish was saying, you've got to be registered with the PCCB.
Absolutely.
The most important.
There's more than that. It's about attitude of mind, right?
Yeah. The most important thing. One, you've got to understand what a local search is. A lot of people have no idea what a local search is or what's contained therein. So a personal searcher has to learn the questions and the answers. Yes, that's easy. But then you've got to find or refine those answers you have obtained. In other words, is there something not quite right? Is there something you've missed? Is there something that you know should be in that search? So as I explained when at the conference last month, you've got to have a certain kind of mind to be a search agent. It's not easy. You can train someone or show someone, yes, this is the information you need, go and find it. Yes, you can. You go onto a council website, you go planning, you go highways, etc., etc. Yes, and you write down the information. But then it's interpreting that information. And if something rears its ugly head, it's knowing where to go to verify that information, to find out if that information you've been given is wrong or it's correct. So you see it in Detective on television where a copper says, gut instinct, I know he's the murderer. It's having that gut instinct to know that something is not quite right. Something is missing or you haven't got the full story. So you need to go on.
But it's having an inquiring mind. It's an inquiring mind, yes.
Yeah, you've got to be a bit of a detective. I mean, a majority, as Hamish will know, a lot of our searches, they come back just basic. They just have a smoke control. But then you can get one that has so much information on it. It can take you hours and hours to refine it, research it, make sure it's right. So therefore, the exam we actually give to people is asking, not do you know where to get the planning information from? That's simple, that's easy. It's right. How do you interpret that a Section 106 legal agreement is not registered at land charges, but this is a new development. So that there should be some form of agreement. Where do you go and find that agreement? How do you read that agreement and interpret the information? Should it be registered at land charges? Because there's only certain things in the agreement that should be registered at land charges. If it's an ongoing condition, so it's something that's ongoing. So therefore, it could be a thing to say that you need planning permission to put a porch on. You need planning permission to put an extension on. You need planning permission to take down a tree. It's an ongoing condition or a condition that is set down to the developer to say he has got to or they've got to do this. So it's knowing where to find the information. And the thing is, every council stores their information differently.
Right.
And that is the hardest thing. And that is where your local knowledge is an expertise, because You work with that council every day. You know how to go on their websites. And if you can't find it there, you know where to go into that office and ask and whom to ask, and know that you can get that information. So it's like anything, any job you learn to do, it's experience. As Hamish says, some people, I came from a land charges planning background, so I knew that. Some people come in and thinking this is going to be easy. No, it's not. It is a very complicated process that you are filling out a very important legal document, and it is a legal document that is required by law. So therefore, it has got to be accurate. Otherwise, you're in trouble.
Quite right. But a lot of it, although it's experience, it requires you to think, well, I can see the base information in front of me. Let's look behind that information.
Yes, that's what it is. It's looking behind that information, and
not just being satisfied with the broad basic information, but trying to dig into it and find out whether or not
yes,
you're being misled by the information
that's it. Because you'll look at something, because as I said, local knowledge is part of your expertise. Because I will look at something years when I was working, as I've retired, but I would look something in Calderdale, which is where I was trained. I know it backwards, or I did. Obviously, after 18 months out, you lose that. But I'd look at something and think, well, surely that property should be in a conservation area. Right. And you look, and somebody's misdrawn it on something, or somebody's mapped it wrong. And you think, right, okay, or you pick up something that is a listed building. Now, listed buildings are very, very restricted in what they can and can't do. Majority of what you do to a listed building requires listed building consent or planning. So if you've picked up, this is a grade 1 listed, grade 2 listed building, but there's a fencer certificate where they've had double glazing put in. Therefore, if there's double glazing being put in recently, where's the listed building consent? Right. They need that consent to put that double glazing in. Right. So therefore, you start to dig. Have I missed something? So you dig and dig and dig, and you can't find it. So therefore, when you send the search back, you flag it to your solicitor. There's a fencer certificate for 2024 for all the windows to be replaced, but there is no listed building consent for those windows to be put in. Therefore, a lot of people don't realise that is a crime. That is criminal damage to a listed building. And therefore, the person who's buying it, if they take it on, even though it was done before they took it on, they could be liable to prosecution for it. So it's those silly little things that you try and dig and dig and dig, and then eventually you just say, cannot find any permission for it. This needs looking into. So it's those silly little things that you pick up with experience, with knowledge, and some people can pick it up just like that. Other people never pick it up, or it takes a long time.
But it's attitude of mind, isn't it? So, Hamish, I mean, not everybody is suitable for doing this kind of role. I think they must have as Jackie so poignantly said, they must have that investigative bent to them that wants to not just accept what they're given on face value.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Because what we want to be able to do is, rather than make extra work for solicitors by putting down information that hasn't been refined, information that is not required because it doesn't apply directly to their property, but also, as Jackie just sort of indicated there, if anything is missing. Because sometimes, well, very often what we would do, and Jackie would know this as well, the first thing Jackie would do is phone up Calderdale saying, well, do you have any planning permission there? Because Jackie would know who to speak to, as would we. And when they turn around and say, well, there is no planning permission, that's, of course, when the old sort of alarm bells go off. So we can actually pass it to, because that's what we want to be able to do for our solicitors, give them a helping hand. So now and again, and it's one of the great things, if we recognise that something is missing, we know who to speak to in the council for our particular locality. And because we are dealing with independent sort of personal, these personal search agents that we're using are the ones from their locality. They know who to speak to. They know the bits that are missing. They know who to speak to about the bits that are missing. They can get them put in there if it just so happens, because councils do slip up. They do sort of make mistakes. And there is interesting things. We had sort of something come up. Strangely, it wasn't actually it wasn't actually a personal search on a property. It was actually a drainage and water search. We received it in from somebody else, and they sent it to us saying that there was a house here and it wasn't connected to any water. Now, the challenge with that was the fact that you had to look on the map a certain way. And one of the challenges about maps, if you actually go in too close to the property, it won't show anything. You need to come out a little bit. You need to zoom in and out on that particular property to find it. And all we had to do, and it's a bit like highways information sometimes, public footpaths and information like that, it's getting the appropriate zoom level just for the map. But you see, all of this comes from experience. So what actually happens for your first 2 to 3 years, it's really a training process. You're learning about things. But the great thing is as well, if anybody gets a little bit stuck on something, as a member of Ipsa, they can actually sort of phone up and they can get guided on a particular challenge they've noticed or something they're not too sure about. And now and again, the people will actually phone through and ask a particular sort of question, which of course can actually be answered. And it's normally Heather actually that, because we put her we're not daft. We put her phone number out so they can phone Heather up. But I mean, Heather's particularly sort of good at it. But this is one of the great advantages, because we are working, we're a team of colleagues that work together on actually sort of resolving this particular sort of issue, and we can speak to each other. And if this is somebody's supplying us with information and we're not necessarily, we like a little bit something, we can always get back to them and say, oh, this is what our solicitor normally likes. Can you put that into the search as well? So it's with all of this stuff is great training, it's experience, and of course it's accountability, because we are regulated. Every sort of 12 months, we sort of regulate. I just sort of check mine out. We're due to be regulated again in June. So we will start actually collating and making sure we've got everything up to date. So when the PCCB come in to have a look and see how things are going, we've got everything sort of fully up to date. So really, it's one of those things, and we are not required to undergo professional continuous development, but we actually do that by way of the fact that we have meetings. Occasionally we'll bring up new information that's come, if the law's been changed or anything's been added. So there's a lot and this is the beauty of people attending Members Day and our conferences, because they're really updated. In the majority of instances, the PCCB are there, land registry are there, so they can pick up on all the new details that are going on. So if you like, as a body, it really does give an opportunity for people to learn.
Well,
can I just add something?
I think you should.
Yeah, Hamish said about the PCCB that every year we have an inspection. So the PCCB come in to make sure that we are getting the correct information, that it is answered correctly, that you don't just put N/OK, which can mean not available or not applicable, etc., etc. So we are inspected every year. But I'd like to add, the land charges departments aren't. They are not monitored at all. Not a single land charges has ever been checked up on to make sure that things are being registered within a certain date, within so many days, which is 28 days usually. Yet we are the ones that are inspected, and you would think, because we are, and we ask to be inspected, and we welcome it to say that we are doing things right, you would have thought somebody would have said, right, well, come on, it's time. The local councils, land charges, etc., were inspected and checked to make sure that they are revealing correct information and registering it. So that's why IPSA is unique.
Yes,
So,
it held to a higher standard. Hamish,
yes.
thank you so much. And Jackie, thank you so much. It's always useful to reiterate what the purpose of it is, and more importantly, what it takes to be part of that. If you are in the conveyancing field and you feel and you deal with searches and you want to know more, please look up the Ipsa, the Independent Personal Search Agents, or the association thereof, and talk to either Hamish or Michelle, who are currently running that show, and they'll help you understand and take you through the process. Thank you, Jackie, for taking your time out today. Thank you, Hamish, for helping us put this thing together. And to all of you watching, please keep your feet on the ground. Keep reaching for the stars. And for goodness sake, during these rather turbulent times, trying to look after that mental health. Until next week, bye-bye.